Okay, we're going to start with the nation. Inspector General warns subversive elements against plots to derail the May 29th inauguration. Nigerians spend $1.2 billion on medical tourism yearly, says Minister. 13 trillion naira spent on subsidy in 16 years, says federal government. US, we have sanctioned those who undermined elections. Life outside power is challenging. Igbinidion Saraki tell outgoing governors. Assault on inspector. Detained Seun Kuti may undergo drug test. Okay.
At the very end.
Let's start with medical tourism.
Yes. The Minister for Communications and Digital Economy, Professor Issa Pantami, has said that $1.2 billion annually goes towards medical tourism, and that the federal government, in trying to reverse this trend, has inaugurated what it calls a digital health service platform, NIG Health, NIG, to bridge the gap in healthcare. So it was unveiled yesterday, and they're hoping this platform would address the challenges of shortage of healthcare personnel, medical tourism, and inadequate technological infrastructure. It will be managed by the Nigerian Communications Satellite Limited. It was also demonstrated, they demonstrated how this platform works. It works through an app. And of course, the president was thanked for his support in helping the efforts of private investors in this. So for me, I feel that, okay, let me just finish. So they said the platform, we're promoting a more efficient, effective healthcare system that could be accessible to all Nigerians, will improve the capacity of our healthcare professionals to deliver quality services by leveraging technology to reach out to patients in remote areas with less cost and physical stress. So for me, I feel that that is what we would address most and should concentrate most. That's patients in remote areas in Nigeria. Right. That medical tourism or in travel, it's not our problem. Platform that will address that. Right. That one has to be something that we'll be talking to the House of Reps and to discuss policies on how to curb that. Simple. But this is important for reaching remote areas in Nigeria.
Okay, United States have sanctioned those who undermined the past elections in Nigeria, the February elections. According to the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, he said that this move was not targeted at Nigerians or government at all. He said they've announced that they've taken steps to impose visa restrictions on specific individuals in Nigeria who undermined the elections. Now, unfortunately, he didn't mention the name, so we don't know exactly who these sanctions have been put up against. But according to him, Blinken added that this was according to the Section 212, subsection 3C of the Immigration Nationality Act, that says that these individuals will be subject to restrictions on visas to the United States under the policy covering those believed to be responsible or complicit in undermining democracy. Now, that's a lot to unpack, because if you don't give us the names of the people, how do Nigerians actually know you implemented these sanctions? And how do we know if, let me
just like the US to know how to play this.
Everybody, they play by the way. We are all politicians.
Yeah, so the federal government said yesterday that Nigeria has spent over 13 trillion on petrol subsidies in 16 years. So the secretary to the government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, said the money was spent between 2005 and 2021. He spoke in Abuja at the launch of the Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NEITI, and they were having a strategic plan from 2022 to 2026. So the Presidential Transition Council, PTC, will release the guide that emanates from the discussion on the premium motor spirits petrol subsidy to the incoming administration of President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And from that policy advisory, they said over 13 trillion, which is equivalent to 74 billion, is documented to have been expended on the payment of subsidy between 2005 and 2021. And they're assuring Nigerians that the federal government had been keenly following the subsidy conversations, having borne the burden of fuel subsidy themselves for this number of years. And they are saying they are open to ongoing debate about the subsidy. They want to get a comprehensive position guide to how they can make everything work out, whether they're taking out the subsidy or not. And, you know, they talked about the fact that the money for the subsidy is equivalent to what should have been used for health, for our education, for technology, for infrastructure, and different sectors. So they are trying as much as possible to see how, if they take out the subsidy, how they can use this money judiciously across all of those sectors to bring about improvement. But they will finalize everything and pass it on to the president-elect that's going to be inaugurated.
The Punch. Tinubu's inauguration, the military inspector general warns troublemakers as court hears the anti-handover case. Picture here of Shehu Kuti spends night in custody, police plan arraignment. Hilda's marathon cooking smashes world record, grabs global attention. Nollywood stars mourn as Murphy Al-Falabi is buried. Gridlock again, commuters groan as Lagos-Ibadan Expressway on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Pay rise, residents, doctors begin a warning strike on Wednesday. U.S. announces visa ban on Nigerian poll riggers. And AFG spends 13 trillion on subsidy, sets removal guidelines. Okay, which story are we starting with?
Motorists in Lagos-Ibadan Expressway were stranded yesterday for hours on the gridlock. And they said this started Sunday after the massive downpour in the area. But also eyewitnesses said there's a lot of construction work going on, and as well as multiple accidents that happened on the road. And they said there was a truck that was conveying rams or cows who rammed into a vehicle behind, and that vehicle rammed into others. So there was multiple impacts of the accidents and multiple crashes on the road, and that affected the traffic as well. So they are trying, they said, according to an eyewitness, said about 4 persons were injured and rushed to the hospital. So they are saying that among those 4 persons, 2 children, 1 male and 1 female were involved in the accident. And they're asking that the government comes, you know, the security agencies come and take out all the things obstructing the road, and the construction that's happening there should be, you know, done effectively, so that diversions can be given for commuters to take other routes, and then we'll have a free flow of traffic.
Okay, let me take the update on the Shehu Kuti story. So many of you know that he actually came to the police to report himself to the police on Monday, where he was detained and paraded. He was handcuffed, actually. We saw pictures of him being handcuffed and paraded at the police. According to reports by Punch, what really happened was that the policeman had followed Shehu Kuti to his residence off Allen because Shehu has hit his car. And he followed him, maybe because Shehu Kuti did not want to stop at the time. Anyway, he followed him to the car, and then Shehu got down and gave him 12,000 naira to repair his vehicle. This was after the altercation had happened, that we'd seen the video on Third Mainland Bridge, where he had pushed the policeman and slapped the policeman. But the story was that he was actually Shehu Kuti that hit the man's car. Oh. Anyways, he's been arraigned, and of course, Shehu Kuti's lawyer from Falana's office was saying that it was completely illegal for them to parade him the way they did and to handcuff him, that it was wrong, it was illegal for them to do that, and that that issue would also be raised in court. But today, this morning, the matter is going to be heard in court, and then we'll see the proceedings afterwards. But at least we're happy that the proceedings have started, and we'll see how this goes. Okay, we're going to continue with Punch. You had a story, Maria?
Yeah, so my story is Hilda Baci's story.
Yay!
Yay! Whoop, whoop, so whoop. They say at exactly 4 p.m., May 11, 2023, the clock ticked. May 11? What's today's date?
Today is 16th.
It must have been, they made a mistake, 15th. Yeah. Baci turned on her kids. Okay, sorry, that's when it started. May 11th. Okay. And we know that at the end of it, she did 100 hours and 40 minutes, 4 days of cooking. And she beat the record for the previous record of 87 hours, 45 minutes. They describe her as someone who is always, she says as a child, she's always read the book of the Guinness World Records, and she's always wanted to be on it. And she had planned this out for 5 years. They talk about all the meals that she cooked and how everyone talked about the quality of her food till the very end. It did not drop at all. But you know what was also much more exciting about it is all the people that came to support her. We had, of course, politicians. They said notable celebrities, as we know, the governor of Lagos State, former governor of Akwa Ibom State, Akpabio was there, popular musician Tiwa Savage, Big Brother, Titans, ex-housemates. We have some of them
Ladies
from
of
South Africa. Ladies of Your View were
Yeah.
there. Some, you know,
Bororo was
influencers. Everyone was there. She got congratulatory messages from our president.
Yes.
Our president-elect, and then also presidential candidate for the LP and PDP as well. So everybody is saying that, well done. President Buhari lost the young culinary expert for turning her talent and passion into a career with a rippling effect on the economy as she runs a restaurant in Lagos, trains other talents on entrepreneurship, and now leads the world in resilience, perseverance, and consistency in cooking. So,
And she
well done.
successfully brought Nigerians
Together.
together like football, like soccer would do.
Yeah.
She brought us together for one purpose, and I think that's a huge accomplishment for
Yes.
a young lady.
The
Congratulations.
quality of the food, people kept talking about it. Somebody said, if I cook for 50 hours, when you taste the food, food will taste you back.
Fantastic. Yeah, let's move on now to the Nigerian Tribune. North Central governors fault APC zoning template. Higher food prices push Nigerians' inflation to 22.22%. Okonjo-Iweala warns governors-elect against debt acquisition. IGP warns persons plotting to scuttle inauguration of the new government. 2023 polls, U.S. imposes visa restrictions on election violators. Resident doctors begin warning strike. Court bars NYSC from further disclaiming Enugu governor-elect certificate. And 228 buildings, 336 families affected by the rainfall in Lagos, says NEMA. That was a really huge rainfall over the weekend. Okay, which story are we starting with in Nigerian Tribune?
The Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors have declared a 5-day warning strike following the failure of the federal government to meet their demands. The decision was reached after a 6.5 hours extraordinary National Executive Council meeting, which was held yesterday. The resident doctors said the strike will commence exactly 8 a.m. tomorrow, that's May 17th, till Monday, May 22nd at 8 a.m. I know last week the association, I think 2 weeks ago, April 29th, issued a 2-week ultimatum to the federal government to meet its demands or face industrial action. And the ultimatum ended Saturday, May 13th, 2023. Now, the doctors are demanding an immediate increment in the consolidated medical salary structure to the tune of 200% of the current gross salaries of doctors. They want the immediate withdrawal of the bill seeking to compel medical and dental graduates to render 5-year compulsory services in Nigeria before granting full licenses to practice. They also want the immediate implementation of CONMES, domestication of the Medical Residency Training Act, and review of hazard allowance by all the state governments, as well as private tertiary health institutions where any form of residency training is done, among others. So these are some of the, some of the things that they have presented to the federal government and the changes they want before they can call off the strike. The Labour Minister is saying that they are already negotiating, so he doesn't expect them to continue with this strike action. But let's see how this turns out.
We have a suspected bandit. They said he's blown himself up using an improvised explosive. This happened in Kaduna. In order for him to evade arrest, they said that the victim had been on the security agency's watch list for a while, and they had been tracking him until he was trailed to his particular hiding place called KK, I think, in Kaduna State. They said that a combined team of soldiers, policemen, and DSS stormed his building and about to arrest him. When he realized that his entire building had been surrounded by security operatives, he engaged them in a gun battle. And he saw that he was definitely going to lose, so he just blew himself up. The security operatives arrested, is what they said, or recovered from his. They recovered some arms and ammunition from his building, and also his family was evacuated from there. They took his wife and children from the building.
Okay, so the Inspector General of Police Usman Al-Khali Baba, has confirmed actually the plot to scuttle the May 29th official inauguration of the new administration. According to him, the politicians or major political actors that the outcome of the past elections did not favor have been issuing public threats and are directed at instigating actions to frustrate the presidential inauguration coming up. He has said that the national intelligence community have closely monitored the activities of these players, as well as other elements who have formed themselves as unpatriotic brands whose fantasy is to disrupt the nation. He said that they are warning them very closely. He said the beauty of democracy lies not just in the freedom of the citizens to freely exercise their franchise within the electoral cycle, but it's also hinged on the right of aggrieved political actors to submit grievances on the electoral committee to the judicial process. So all plans, we've heard this before, those who are planning to scuttle the inauguration, but the Inspector General said they are on them, and hopefully it will be a smooth transition on May 29th. Everybody's waiting just less than 2 weeks to go. So, okay, let us go now to The Guardian. Are we done with Punch? The Tribune. The Guardian, uncertainty over $2.3 billion Siemens deal as grid collapses 99th time under Buhari. Assault, Kuti apologizes, gives officer 12,000 naira for vehicle repairs. U.S. slams visa ban on Nigerians who undermine 2023 elections. Government kicks against move to halt doctors' migration. Resident doctors declare 5-day warning strike. And Buhari leaves inflation at highest in 17 years. Okay, which story are we doing in Guardian?
Federal government yesterday opposed the bill sponsored by a member of the House of Representatives, Ganiyu Johnson, APC Lagos, seeking to check migration of doctors and other medical professionals. The proposed piece of legislation is making it compulsory for medical graduates to practice at least 5 years before licensing. But the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, is saying that the bill contravenes extant labour laws, and, went ahead to address newsmen after the extraordinary Federal Council, Executive Council meeting presided over by the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, at the presidential villa. And he said that, he was responding to the threat of the National Association of Resident Doctors to go on strike. And he said you cannot keep a medical doctor after he has graduated from school in the country for 5 years before licensing him, that is not acceptable. Nobody will get a practicing license till after 5 years. It doesn't make sense. It runs contrary to the laws of the land. He himself is a medical doctor, and he knows that when they graduate from medical school, they go on 1 year apprenticeship called housemanship or internship. And after that, you are now fully licensed to practice as a medical doctor. But you can now choose, that's why they are resident doctors, choose to, specialize in maybe, surgery, heart? Cardiology, specialize in pediatric medicine, just pick your specialties. And that's why they are resident doctors, and you cannot keep them for that long before licensing them. So definitely this law is not going to fly.
And this is also Nigeria,
where
they spend extra years than they need to because of strike.
NYSC is there.
Yes.
They are still going to do their NYSC.
Okay. Any other story in Guardian?
They say our president is leaving behind an inflation rate of 22.22%, the highest in about 17 years, which will be well over double the level he met in 2015. National Bureau of Statistics released the last consumer price index in the life of the current administration, showing headline inflation of 22.22%. Whereas they say high inflation is often blamed on food and energy costs, core inflation strips out volatile items, including food, remained elevated at 20.14%. Anyway, it just looks like, a bad case altogether. They're also saying that monetary policy rates now 18%. Commercial loans are in the region of 28 to 33%. We have some stakeholders, accusing the Senate and House of Representatives committees on banking and finance for complicity and inaction, saying that there's no standard loan document or provisions, to address this. And they're also saying that these charges by the banks, it's killing businesses, slowing
Right.
purchasing power, limiting manufacturing as a result of high cost of borrowing. Companies owing banks have seen interest on existing loans rise. It just seems like a sad situation all around.
Another sad situation is the much hyped Nigeria-Germany deal with the Siemens Power. If you recall, we're all excited about that deal. But Guardian did a report saying that unfortunately they've missed all the timeline, the major timelines. That we obviously can't have that. Before the end of this administration, Buhari cannot say he has been able to solve the issue of power because people were excited about that deal. According to Lanre Elatui, who is the Siemens Power the electricity analyst, he was saying that he blamed COVID-19 partly as part of the cause of the delay in execution and other issues surrounding the commercial framework of the deal and the buy-in of other market players. He said that the incoming administration will simply have to determine if the process will be stalled or not. He says the power deal, though, was promising, but the reality is obvious that the timelines have been passed and we can only defer to the incoming administration, just like many other things. We're leaving subsidy to the incoming administration. In fact, so I was excited that they are getting the new administration. Okay, that is all we can take on Front Page Review.